I just cut some slits along the edge of the tofu package so that I could first drain it out in the sink, and then that's when I flipped it over and just have my tofu here now. And all I need to do is cut it into cubes. So I'm going to actually flip it this way and cut it into 3 sections. And then flip it back on this side. And you just want about a 1/2 inch cube. That's it. So what I did next was I boiled a pot of water with salt in it, and I just put my tofu in to blanch. Once it comes to a boil, just turn it right off actually, and you can just forget about it, and we'll move on to the next step. And then once we're ready to go, we've sauteed our aromatics and the tofu's ready to go in, then we'll use this strainer and scoop it in. Put it into the wok. And the reason why we do this is because the tofu, if it just goes straight into the pot or wok, it can get a bit mealy without the blanching process, but the blanching process helps it to stay intact and you get like a silkier tofu texture.
All right, so we have the tofu blanching in the water here. So what is the next step that we're going to take here? So
next step is we actually make the dish now. Right now I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil into the wok. And then give it a swirl. It is smoking, which means it's hot and ready to go. And you also know when your oil is ready when it just moves quick and it's shimmering. So next up, the paste. I have the black bean paste here and the Sichuan chili paste. I'm going to turn down my heat. It's about a medium right now. Getting a bit hot, so I'm taking it off the heat.
You smell all those aromatics right away as soon as it comes in.
It's just spicy and delicious.
So I see that you put your paste in there first. What are the reasons that you put it in there first?
Yeah, so whenever you want to fry up aromatics and get flavors really deep, that's when I add my paste and aromatics in first. Well, actually, just the paste first, because next is the pork, and I'll put it in. So
this way, I guess it's kind of like flavoring the oil in the pan, so everything that you throw in is going to pick up all the flavors there.
So I just want to flavor the pork here and get it tasting like these taste. But currently my pan is a bit dry, so I'm going to add a bit of oil.
Is this traditionally done with pork, or is there other meats that it can be substituted for?
It's traditionally done with pork for sure. Actually, the word meat in Chinese, when you just say meat, it usually refers to pork without having to add like the descriptor word to make it become chicken or beef. So pork is very common in Chinese cuisine. Usually it's always small amounts of meat because back in the day people just wanted to get as much flavor as they could without having to spend all that much. And yeah, it's normally made with pork, but sometimes I actually make this dish vegetarian and I use dried mushrooms that I soak in water and chop that up instead of the pork. Yeah. So.
And I know woks are a staple, and they carry like flavoring like super well. So if somebody didn't have a wok at home and they only had a pan, will the dish taste the same? Will it kind of be missing that that wok flavor, if that makes sense.
For sure, there is a certain wok flavor, but you can make this dish and it will be very delicious either way. So
it smells really good so far.
Yeah, I'm excited. So at this point, my pork is pretty much done, and it's time to add stock in the tofu. So this is about a half cup of stock. You can use any type of stock, vegetable, chicken, or beef if that's what you have. Honestly, I don't think that the stock flavor is overpowering because the sauces are actually pretty pungent. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this up and add my tofu. So normally I would blanch my tofu for any sort of saucy dish like this, because as I stir this in the sauce and incorporate it, I actually am being very careful not to break the tofu apart so that it doesn't become little bits. And just give this a stir, but don't aggressively stir it as it is delicate. You kind of just push it back and forth and let this come to a gentle simmer.
Is tofu commonly used in Chinese cooking?
Totally.
Yeah?
Yeah, soy products, tofu, anything soy related is very common in Chinese cooking. And
I know that tofu sometimes is a love or hate relationship with a lot of people.
For sure.
Is there anything you could sub tofu up for this, or is that kind of like the main element of the dish that just would not be the same?
That is actually the main element of this dish in particular, but having said that, I grew up eating this type of tofu, and the second, or like the moment I had firm tofu outside of this context, it was like a completely different thing. So this, it's just luscious, super flavorful from either the mushrooms or the meat, and it just envelops like white rice or whatever you eat it on top of. Whereas I find people don't like tofu because it's dry or it doesn't have any flavor. This has so much flavor. So if you really don't like tofu, I guess this is not the dish for you to make, but I would recommend you trying it at least once, because this is actually what converted my husband into liking tofu.
Nice. And yeah, I feel like the tofu probably like absorbs all like the flavors and the aromatics you put in there. So
absolutely.
I feel like I sometimes have a love and hate relationship with tofu, but looking at it right now is looking really good.
I am excited for you to try this, actually.
I'm very excited to try it too.
So once you've stirred it around a bit and the tofu has absorbed some of the sauce, it's ready to be thickened with the cornstarch slurry. I'm just going to pour it in now and turn up the heat slightly so that it bubbles a little more. You just push it around.
So you added a slurry to your wok here, and I know a slurry is very commonly used in cooking with chefs and as a thickener. But for somebody who's maybe not aware of what a slurry is, do you want to explain just how simple and easy it is to use?
Yeah, for sure. So a slurry is just 1 teaspoon of cornstarch to 1 tablespoon of water. Make sure that you actually use cold water instead of hot water, because you don't want it to clump right away, which is why you actually don't just add cornstarch straight to your pan. And you pour it in, and that's what actually gets it to thicken very slowly and gradually, instead of having like clumps of starch here and there.
It's definitely a nice little magic trick. You know, you can use it for sauces, soups, pretty much any type of liquid that you just want to thicken it up and give it a better consistency. So a nice and simple, easy task that most people have in their cabinets as well. So
yeah,
awesome.
So what I actually forgot to mention earlier is that to end or garnish the dish, I like to use Sichuan peppercorns, which have like a numbing tongue feeling, which is a very big characteristic with Sichuan food, and all the spicy foods that are found in that region. So a little goes a long way actually, and I'm going to first toast them up. They look like little berries actually, but I'm gonna toast them up. So I'm just going to toast up these spices until they get fragrant and then crush them up and add them to my tofu. So the Sichuan peppercorn is toasted and ready to go, so I'm just going to crush it before I put it into the dish. If you don't have one of these, you can use like a pepper grinder or just kind of crush it in a Ziploc bag with either like a rolling pin or something heavy. And there you go. Last up is herbs for garnish. You can use cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, you can easily use green onions. Those are the two main ones for this dish and common for Chinese cuisine. But I just picked some leaves off and I'm just going to curl it up a bit. I like to use the whole stem because that's actually where a lot of the flavor is. Also, it's not important to pick your leaves for this dish. It's not a fussy dish. You just go at it a couple times and you're good. Yeah, go for it. So the Sichuan peppercorn is ready to go. I'm just going to sprinkle a bit in. A little goes a long way. Good touch. And then I'll give it a stir. I think it's ready to taste.
Sweet. You've been killing me with all these fragrances and aromatics that's in that pan, so I've been dying to get in here to taste it, so let's give it a try on the sauce here.
Yeah. Tofu bite.
Ooh, a little spice at the end, man. A little kick. That's really good. Oh my god. That's really good. Yeah. I love the heat that you have in there. I'm a very, very, very big spice guy. That's really good.
It comes from the Sichuan chili paste.
Yep. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait to try the whole dish.
How do you like it?
Love it.
So we're ready to serve. I'm gonna put this butter. Ooh, it's a bit saucy. Your greens, some sesame seeds, and you're good to go.